Today on Front End Fire, MDN wants to make AI agents better, a new Chinese AI as good as Opus but 1/16th the price, and the US government has deemed Fable too powerful for the masses. We have a great episode coming up. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, the weekly web development podcast helping you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. And it is actually episode 150, if you can believe that.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
It's crazy.
It really is, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you to everybody who's been listening since the early days. We really appreciate it. I am your host today, Paige Niederinghaus, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, TJ Van Tol
Hey, everybody.
and Jack Harrington.
Hey there.
And as we teased, we have some really interesting news coming up. All of it kind of revolves around AI, because what doesn't these days?
It's an AI episode again. We had a non-AI last week.
We do have some non-AI stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
So-
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. We try.
So let's get right into it, because we've got some cool stuff to talk about. Okay, so if you've been following the news cycle for the past week or so, you would know that Anthropic released Fable, which is their Mythos 5 version for everybody else. But then something happened, and it immediately disappeared again. So TJ has got the whole scoop and the full story.
Yeah, I thought this was worth talking about. I mean, we are a front-end podcast, but this is increasingly our world, and also, this is just a crazy story to talk about, just in general, too. So, like Paige said, Fable 5 was released. It was released on June 9th. We actually briefly mentioned it on last week's episode, but it was pretty new, so we hadn't done more than just sort of tinker with it a little bit. And it turns out it's a good thing we got it in, because it is no longer available
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
And just to set the stage real quick, so Fable 5, Anthropic released it. They deemed it a Mythos class model. So if you remember, Mythos was their model that they deemed was so good at cybersecurity that they didn't want to make it generally available. So they had this Project Glasswing, this group of people that got early access to it. Well, this Fable 5 is their version that they felt that was, to them, safe enough to release to the masses, but they put in some extra safeguards. So there were safeguards related to cybersecurity, to biology, to chemistry, and distillation, LLM distillation as well. And when Fable recognized one of those queries, it would downgrade you to Opus 4.8 instead. Now, there were a couple, before we even get to the drama with the US government, which is where we're going with this, there was some drama around Fable 5 shortly after it was released as well. The first was that when it was first released, Claude wasn't actually notifying you when you were being downgraded models. So it wouldn't tell you when you were being taken from Fable 5 down to Opus 4.8. That was one bit of drama. There was a story on The Verge that I found that's the title of the story was Claude Fable won't answer basic biology questions. So it couldn't answer things like what is a cell membrane or what are mitochondria, because their safeguards were so restrictive that it just wouldn't answer those types of questions. So that was one bit of drama. The more controversial one of these is they also, and I just found in their blog post, they said, we're making a change to the way we handle business customer data for Fable 5 and future models with similar or higher capability levels. We will require 30-day retention for all traffic on all Mythos class models. So essentially, they previously, when you use Claude models, they're not storing your data. That's part of your agreement with them. But they changed that for Mythos 5 as part of their model. And a lot of businesses that care about that sort of thing a whole lot, especially if you're dealing with healthcare, legal, any of those types of industry, that was a big deal as well. So that's piece of controversy number 2. But then, before those could all play out, last Friday, June 12th, the US government ordered Anthropic to block access to Fable 5 for, quote, all foreign nationals, so basically all non-US citizens. And they did so under what's called an export control directive, which is a term that I am not super familiar with, but it is basically what we in the US have traditionally used to limit exports of things like weapons, for example. But this has also been used for things like when we had bans on different semiconductor equipment and chips to China. That was also done under this sort of directive. But I found this quote in a story from The Verge. This is from Andrew Reddy, who's a professor at UC Berkeley. He says, quote, "To say this is an unsettled area of export control rulemaking would be an understatement." And the crazy thing about this, so in practicality, what this means to us that are building software, if you're a Claude user, you have almost certainly already seen this because Anthropic all over their tools has big statements, big banners saying Mythos 5 is no longer available with links out to their blog. And the crazy thing is that as we're recording this on a Friday, because news might break by the time you're listening to this, but nothing has come out for why the US government specifically told Anthropic to pull this. There are rumors. There's rumors that maybe Amazon, who had early access to this, reported something to the US government. There's rumors that Trump just does not like Anthropic, so there's something related to that. But it's basically everything's in the rumor mill because we don't know why. And so Mythos 5 was available for about 2 to 3 days. Jack and I temporarily got in some usage in the meantime, but it's now no longer available. And I don't know, all of this is wild.
It really
is. I mean, I thought that it was pulled because they made the request that we couldn't share Mythos or Fable with foreign nationals, and there is no way that Anthropic can enforce or guarantee that just by the information that it has about its user base, which is basically your email address and nothing, and your credit card number. But we've heard like nothing since then of how they're mitigating this or what they're going to do to fix it or how we can convince the US government that this is not a national security threat. And it's wild. It was there for 2 days and then it suddenly wasn't.
Yeah, and what a 2 days it was. So, I mean, I ended up getting in, right near the end, I guess. Yeah, I was working on a pretty big feature for Tansec AI, and I was just like, okay, well, just let Fable 5 roll on it and see what happens, see how hard it hits my Claude Max subscription. And that's actually what went out first, was the Claude Max subscription was like, yep, nope, you're banned for like 3 hours or so. And then, finally it came back, and by that time Fable 5 was gone. So whatever. I mean, the code that it came up with was, Opus quality. Like, it's tough to tell. Like, at a certain point, like, it's just good enough. It's what I would have written. Like, and Opus 4.8 hit that bar kind of a while ago. I'm not sure what, how much better Fable 5 is. Can't really know now. But yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it was originally, as you say, like restricted to foreign nationals only. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm in America. Cool. I still have it. And then some friends were like, oh, I guess I got to come to America now. I'm like, okay, good luck with that. And, but no, I mean, that now it's for everybody.
Yeah, because Anthropic has no way to practically enforce that. At least not short term. I mean, they have foreign nationals that work at their company. I mean, there's just unrealistic that they could actually comply with that. And Jack, I also used it for a few hours just for some routine sort of development. And I switched back just because it was so cost prohibitive. They had a thing up there that it was twice as expensive as Opus 4.8. And since I couldn't notice a difference, it seemed like it was doing Opus level work for what I was working on. I just switched back to 4.8, and that was my brief foray into it. And I mean, we'll just see how this plays out. If nothing else, this is wildly entertaining. It's just, I mean, for all the drama, there's big implications of this. You could have some really deep conversations about what this means in terms of government control and who should really control these safeguards. But it's very entertaining to watch the news of this. At least I choose to laugh rather than to cry.
It's just, It gives me flashbacks to a few years ago when OpenAI had that leadership kerfuffle when they fired Sam Altman over the weekend, and he almost joined Microsoft, and then he came back and was rehired, and the board got let go. It just feels like that kind of flurry of people not knowing what they're doing, but still reacting and causing headaches for everybody around.
Yeah, it's petty drama with billions of trillions of dollars on the line. I think that's what makes it so entertaining, because the stakes here are legitimately very high. And so to be operating in such a high stakes world and to just have these really petty little things or these bits that we don't even know the story behind this, the fact that we don't know if this was an actual vulnerability found or if it's something political or that we just don't know. And I find that wild.
Yeah. Or who were the people that managed to jailbreak Fable enough that they made the US government react the way that it did, which it seems like an overreaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also interesting, you talk about like OpenAI back in those days, to see how much OpenAI has kind of declined. Like, Anthropic now just owns the space, certainly in the world of like more enterprise style AI and particularly coding. Anthropic just is the dominant player now, which is I mean, at the time, Anthropic was this plucky little upstart, like, and OpenAI was the huge boss in town. Amazing
and Gemini's attacking OpenAI from the consumer space because it's built so directly into Google search. I mean, a lot of people speculated, including us, whether Google was in trouble because of the rise of ChatGPT, but they've done a quite good job of integrating AI into their search results. Their usage really hasn't went down. Their company, they're still making somehow even more money off Google search, miraculously enough. And so OpenAI is being attacked on both sides, but I don't think I think this is a big enough space. There's enough money, there's enough demand that I think all of them will end up being fine at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, Codex has definitely done a better job of bringing them back into, I think, the tech world.
Yeah.
But for a while there, nobody was using ChatGPT, and I fear to say that nobody is still using GitHub Copilot if they have other options.
Yeah. Codex is in a solid second place because people aren't really using Gemini in coding stuff. You never hear of Grok in a coding context. So
weirdly, having done benchmarks on a lot of this stuff, Grok is actually quite good at coding and very, very, very fast. I was impressed by that. So I think that's more just like perception,
Yes.
Yeah.
Grok has a lot of negative stigma to overcome.
Yeah.
And Grok doesn't have a good harness. I mean, we're going to talk about Cursor later on because there might be a story that the way forward for them is through Cursor and all the money they're spending there. But Claude Code is just so good, and Claude Cowork is quite good, and Codex is getting pretty good, and that's just becoming really hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
And now there's Claude Design, which is another thing we could talk about. But I will say, so I did become a Google GDE or Google Developer Expert or something like that for the cloud AI space. And it's finally happening. I mean, getting access to some of their, leading edge models ahead of when they're actually released and stuff. And what they've got in the pipeline looks really good. So I think Google's going to be resurgent in this space.
All right. We will see.
We will see.
All right. Well, that's actually a good segue from talking about Anthropic to talking about a new competitor for Anthropic that's coming out of China. And I think Jack has the full story on that.
Yeah, so Hong Kong company Zipu, I actually looked up the pronunciation on that one, and I'm somewhat confident in that pronunciation. Released its 5.2 model of its GLM series of open weight models. So these are like 750 billion node models and or parameter models, and this is not the kind of thing that you're going to run like just on your local machine or anything like that. It's like an Opus class model. And the really exciting thing about this is that it is very competitive in terms of code level and code quality with Opus 4.8. and
Mhm.
it actually is 1/16 of the cost. So, if you're looking for kind of a cheaper alternative, you can get access to this via Zipu's own servers or on Open Router, because this is actually like an OSS model, like an open source model. And then the way that I'm doing it is I actually finally got myself an Olama plan, Olama Pro, which is like $28 a month or something like that. And I've been working at it through that. And I gotta say, like, I was contrasting doing some comparative work and using open code kind of as a harness, because I was like, I want to see what Claude looks like on its own outside, or Opus on its own outside of Claude Code
Mhm.
versus this GLM thing model. And it was very interesting. Like the spend, like, so that means that I had to use my actual Anthropic API key on stuff,
Mhm.
and the spend level on Opus is amazing. I mean, I put together like maybe a simple 5-page app, and we're talking like $20 worth of spend on that in token usage, and it's like, okay, wow. And then Zipu or the GLM one is fractional in comparison. So it's pretty cool. And I think that if you're looking around for it, I think it's cool in that today, if you're looking for an alternative, there is that alternative, which is kind of neat. And then it does show that you can get to this class level of AI, at that price
Mhm.
point. And it's kind of the same thing that we saw with DeepSeek back in, maybe last year, where it's just like the company takes it to a different level, and with the price per token at that same quality level. So I'm pretty excited about it, actually. It's good to see.
They also picked up the Z.ai domain name, which is pretty
That's
slick.
pretty cool.
So that's
Yep.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
had
I like-
never heard of this company before
No,
today.
yeah, just pop
Like-
out. There you go.
Okay.
Zipu.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
This is also the first time I'm hearing of it. I mean, I do think it's cool that there are open source models that are trying to keep up, because I think this competition in this space is really, really good. And
Mhm.
I don't have too much more to say about that. This is completely brand new to me as well. And I'll put this on my list of things to sort of look into.
Yeah.
So if you're running a model like this and you're using something like open code, does it give you the same ability to have things like skills or MCP connections and all the things that we kind of come to expect now within the Claude harness or within the Codex, setup?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, the way that I'm running it is I use Olama to launch open code and to launch Claude Code. I actually ran GLM inside of Claude Code as opposed to using the Anthropic models.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super clean. Yeah, the only thing that I noticed was when I went to go get usage stats versus like Claude, it had really no idea of knowing like how much I'm paying per token for this model that it knows nothing about, So it gave me these crazy like numbers that don't make any sense. Like, it's like $35 or whatever. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about right now. Actually, going on off of that usage stuff was also interesting, because I noticed that, and I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but Anthropic's now doing aggressive caching of LLM requests. Have you guys heard about this at all?
No.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so that's actually like a big reason why maybe your costs are going down, even though if you're on a plan, you probably don't even notice that. But what they're doing is they're actually adding in these like cache control markers at certain points of the conversation. So as long as your tools don't change in mid conversation, you don't add or remove tools, which you normally don't do anyway.
I don't think you can. Yeah.
You can actually, like, weirdly, it's part of the spec that you actually can go and change like tools, but nobody does. Yeah. And then so you can do these like caching sections, or they do these caching sections. So they basically take all of the conversation up to that point and say, cool, that's like cached on our side, and you can just reference it, and it reduces their token spend like a lot. And so for these kind of like big experiments that I was doing, seeing like 99% cache hit rate, and so you're saving a lot on that. So that's gonna be kind of interesting to see. Like definitely weren't getting that on Zipu. Even though I guess we're probably sending cache control headers, but whatever. Or blocks or whatever. So it's kind of
Yeah, but if you're at such a fraction of a cost, then you don't even necessarily, you're already operating at, 16th of the cost or whatever.
That's true. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
That's interesting though. We'll keep an eye on it. Let us know, I guess, how it continues to compare to Claude. Be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it out in code mode, see how it goes. It's a cool model.
All right. Well, it's good to have options.
Yes.
So my news for today is much smaller than the last two pieces, but it is MDN. They have entered the MCP chat with their own MDN server. So it is exactly what you would expect from MDN as a website. It is designed to prevent the spread of outdated web platform information for AI agents. So all these new features that we talk about coming in, the new CSS features, the new API support, all those new things, agents typically have either no idea about them, or depending on when their training cutoff dates were, or they are just hopelessly out of date with which browsers support which features. So this is designed to fix that. It can work with all of the big VS Code editors. So it works with Cursor, it integrates with VS Code, it does all those. It works with the agent CLIs, so your Claude codes, your codexes, things like that. And it even works with Claude desktop app too, which is kind of nice if you're a person who likes to use their desktop for coding. So they did some testing, and of course that is a very difficult thing to benchmark with AIs because of their non-deterministic nature in general, but they did say that it performed markedly better when it came to browser support info for some new features like the buffering pseudo class. I didn't know that was a thing, so that's a new class that I wasn't aware of.
Buffering pseudo class?
Buffering.
For like videos. Yeah. Okay.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how to use the light dark CSS function, and also the web serial API and which browsers supported that, which I know we talked about recently, and how Firefox now has that.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah. So it seems like a very NDN type of MCP server to release, and good on them for trying to do something AI related, because our agents, as they know, are hopelessly out of date based on their training model data of newish features. So yeah, it's a cool idea. And maybe if you're building something that has tons of users on disparate platforms and you're really wanting to stay up to date and using the most cutting edge stuff, this would be really useful for you.
Yeah, we talked last week when we were discussing the CSS survey about how agents tend to not pull a lot of the newest, greatest features unless you specifically ask for them. And so in theory, this could probably help. Like if you just ask, is there a newer, use this tool? Is there a newer way to implement this that works on the browsers I need them to work on? In theory, it sounds good. I'm going to install this thing. So we'll see if Claude starts using it. I definitely want to check it out, because the MDN is one of the great resources that we have. It's just awesome that there's a team that keeps that up and maintains it, because it's just a lot of grunt work to keep something like that up to date. And so since we have it, I mean, our AI agents are already trained on it already, but they're also trained along with the entire internet and all the garbage that's on there. So it should be a way of telling your LLM, this is a really trusted resource, so you should really value what's on here versus anything else.
Yeah. And maybe the next step for them or for us or for somebody is to create a new skill that is just review this code, review MDN, figure out what I'm doing that's old school that could be newer, better, less code, more up to date.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all these LLMs play it conservative, and I think that that's probably the good default. Because if I'm like enterprise developer X, I generally speaking, those company or really more like consumer facing enterprise company X, those companies have like compatibility matrices for different browsers, and they go back a little ways, because mom and pop kettle aren't upgrading their IE on their 10-year-old laptops, but they still want to buy some sneakers or whatever it is. So you don't want to use the most cutting edge stuff unless you're pretty much guaranteed that your target audience is on cutting edge browsers. So if you're making dev tools, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like this is definitely a feature that's more oriented towards people listening to this podcast who want to keep up with this sort of stuff. And you're just average person who just wants to get something to work. They don't really care if they're cutting edge or using the latest web standards. But if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do care about that sort of thing.
Yeah, not just that. Like, you can actually just take this and put it into like your Claude session and just start asking it. You know, like, what are there new ways to do this or that? And now it's got access to MDN really easily.
Yeah. Is there a better way I could do this in CSS?
Yeah.
Ask MDN.
All right. So I think that wraps up our main news items for this week, but we do have some lightning news. All right. Who would like to kick us off with lightning news for this week?
I can start off with this NPM change. So these are some changes we've talked about previously about on the show about how NPM is changing some of their security defaults. And I think the news here is that they're putting them out sooner than at least I thought they were going to. So they have said that their next major NPM release, V12, is going to change some of these security defaults. And specifically, NPM is no longer going to execute pre-install, install, or post-install scripts from dependencies unless they are explicitly allowed. Yeah, we covered this when this was still a proposal, but they've moved on from the proposal quite quickly. They've probably gotten some pressure to do this because of all the recent security incidents, but I think this is a really good thing. So NPM 11.16 has just been released very recently, and that version will warn you if your project is relying on any of these scripts, and it will prompt you to run their commands to essentially do the whatever allows you need to allow to get them documented in your package.json, because when version 12 does come out, those will be blocked. And also, they're also going to block Git dependencies by default. So if you use the weird syntax where you install a dependency with like little git : syntax, which I don't think a lot of people do, but those are going to be blocked by default, and as well as dependencies that just point at a URL. So for people that don't know, you can install an NPM dependency, and instead of listing a version number that points at the official registry, you can just list a URL, and NPM will download the tarball from that URL and install it. And turns out, from a security perspective, you can do some nasty things with that if you just have NPM install things from an arbitrary URL. So those are also going to be blocked by default.
For like early development stuff, because we do a lot of these like branch deploys, and the branch deploys are on those URLs. So that's gotta be fun.
There's a flag. You just --allow -remote. So like it's those fringe cases, you still have a way of making those work. But for your average person building your average app, it's more problematic than it is helpful.
Yeah. And I actually fell over the PNPM no post-install scripts earlier this week because I was downloading an app and it was using PNPM, which I don't normally use for my version control. And it didn't have a version of the app. It was vibe coded by one of my coworkers, PM, actually. So, but anyway, I downloaded it. I tried to install it. PNPM immediately fell over because there were some post-install scripts that were part of it to build it and run it. And it works. I can tell you that the latest version of it does block those by default and tells you that there's something wrong and it can't do it until you know how to say allow. It's okay.
Yeah. Do you happen to remember which packages they were?
No, not off the top of my head. It was an Electron app though. So
okay.
Yeah, but
yeah, there's gonna be a lot of native stuff there. What I'm running into is stuff like SQLite. Better SQLite 3 it needs a Node JIP in there, and I'm kind of wondering if
man, I hate that package so much.
I know so much. Love hate it. I think that we're gonna get kind of some interesting moves here. Like, this is probably gonna end up pushing folks in the direction of like Node : packages. Like, there is a Node : SQLite package that will, just no drivers, no nothing, just connected to SQLite. And I know Bun has its version of that, and I think they also do Postgres and that. It would be great. It would be interesting to see if this kind of pushes the infrastructure of stuff, so that we get like the base libraries of like Dino, Bun, Node are all going to start normalizing, so that we all have access to like SQLite and Postgres and that kind of stuff as sort of base package. So we don't have to go through all this rigmarole for your usual applications.
I do think that people will start, if you're building a new package, you probably don't want to depend on this mechanism unless you have an extremely good reason to do so. And I think that's a good thing because it is a little bit weird to have packages in a JavaScript package manager that have dependencies on natively installed things. It is a bit strange. I mean, there's some very good reasons. SQLite does a lot of powerful things and whatnot, but it is a little bit weird, both from just a usability and security perspective, that sort of thing really exists at all.
Yeah, but we've been doing it for years, and there was at one point in time like a lot of emphasis on this XML streaming parser or this JSON streaming parser is written in C, and therefore it's hyper fast. And so, but that was obviously a native install, so there was a lot of emphasis towards doing that, and
Yeah, and your actual JavaScript package is like a small wrapper that just invokes the native stuff, basically. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically Python. Yeah, I wonder look at some point what Python's doing about all this.
That's a good question. PyPy, I know that they had trusted publishing before NPM did for a year plus before NPM. But yeah, it sounds like all of the supply chains are under attack from these sorts of malicious hackers, so I don't know what else they're doing since we don't play as much in the Python space. I'm sure they've got plenty of issues to deal with, though.
Mm-hmm.
So our other lightning news for this week, which is kind of a surprise, but also kind of not, is that SpaceX, after they had their very successful IPO about a week ago or 10 days ago, they announced that they're buying Cursor AI for $60 billion. That is
in stock, by the way.
Astounding. Yes,
yeah,
it's all in stock.
It's all stock. Yeah, because you're they just went IPO too, and they got $85 billion off that. And it's well, wait a second, are they taking the $85 billion in cash and giving it over to Cursor? No, they are not. They are giving it to them in stock.
Yeah. So according to the press release that I was reading, and their nonstop press releases about it, it was back in April that SpaceX said they were going to either pay Cursor $10 billion to work together with them, or they had the option to buy them. And that we talked about that on the podcast. I think that once they said that they were interested, then suddenly Microsoft was interested, other people were interested, like OpenAI maybe was interested. So a bunch of people suddenly got interested in Cursor in a way that they hadn't been before. But in a filing this past Tuesday, SpaceX said that Cursor is becoming a wholly owned subsidiary of them when the deal closes in Q3. So it is official. They have acqui-hired Cursor.
The money is weird here. So I made a list. I looked up companies with market caps that are near $60 billion because sometimes we lose track of just how much money that is. And so here's your list of companies. At $66 billion, a company near and dear to Jack is Nike. So Nike's in this realm.
Oh, wow.
At $65 billion, Warner Brothers Discovery is operating in this realm as well. And around the $55 billion, so slightly less money than Cursor, is Delta Airlines and also Ford Motor Company are in that space as well. So SpaceX, just casually paid more than Delta Airlines is worth for Cursor
for its entire 100+ year lifespan.
Yeah, I think Jack just died a little bit inside.
We're how much is VS Code worth? It's all of these companies are just wrapping VS Code. I'm not just,
I know.
Okay, fine. But, but really $60 billion worth of wrapping?
Yes. Yeah. They didn't even build it. They didn't build this IDE.
Yeah.
Well, Cursor also had their first developer conference that just happened, and they teased a new model. So this is at least the idea, but this is how they try to justify all of this money and what they're doing. So Michael Truell, their CEO, said they have a new model that was trained on 100,000 plus GPUs that it's a 1.5 trillion parameter model and that it rivals Opus in the latest models from OpenAI in size, but that it is dedicated to coding, obviously, because that is what Cursor does. And you have to presume that the place they found those 100,000 plus GPUs was through XAI and SpaceX and their facilities. So if you wanted to be optimistic towards why this investment makes sense, that is the case for it. That they have now, Cursor has all this data because all the people that have been using Cursor for the last few years, they've been collecting a lot of data on that, and they've used it, and now they have access to SpaceX's massive infrastructure, and they've used it to train this new model. And we'll see how that plays out, but that's at least the sort of bull case here for why the money may sort of make sense and how Cursor's gonna use this to make even more money in the dev world. I don't know. I think all of us here are a little skeptical of that, but we'll see.
It's certainly a very different, I guess, story than what happened with Windsurf, and I will be interested if it continues that way. Because boy, I don't think I've heard word one about Windsurf since it got bought and chopped for parts, basically.
Actually, Windsurf's been doing pretty well from what I hear. Like I'm not a Windsurf user, but from what I hear, they've been trucking along, and I don't know, yeah, but like nothing crazy or revolutionary or anything like that. And to be honest, like the revolutionary stuff that I hear about is Anthropic doing stuff like Claude design and Claude co-work and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think Cursor is on any normies radar at all. Yeah, which amazes me. $60 billion for that. That isn't. Wow. Yeah,
right?
That's funny money. This is craziness. But it's $60 billion worth of SpaceX stock, which, really,
yeah,
who knows?
Which who knows? That could be anywhere.
Maybe we're
there's
exactly
a wide range of outcomes for that.
Yeah.
But there's also the case that SpaceX could be wildly I think it's one of the most volatile things you could possibly own. It's almost crypto level of just the volatility there that could be all over the place. They're almost treating it like monopoly money. You don't really know how much it's actually backed by reality or not.
Yeah, I've seen investor, analysts who are like, this is wildly overvalued. Other ones who think it's all right. Elon Musk is such a polarizing figure by himself that people will automatically hate it and devalue it for that very reason, and other people will buy it for that very reason. So,
right.
Yeah.
And the reviews I've heard have been like, they talk about how there's a $27 trillion addressable market in the prospectus. That's like a quarter of the world's GDP.
It's a lot of space travel.
Yeah. Right? That means that and there's only like 1 billion people on Earth that make appreciable money, and they could afford any of this. And what they're saying, like, make over basically $30K a year. And basically, SpaceX's IPO says that they are going to be paying SpaceX $22K a year, essentially, if you do the math. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. No. Yeah.
Maybe after they have Cursor, though, Jack. You don't know you don't know what they're planning.
That's true. Yeah. Joe Plumber is gonna go and get Cursor and make
Vibe Code, man. He's gonna Vibe Code his new version of his app. It's gonna be crazy.
Yup. Okay.
Oh, do we have anything else we want to cover in this week's lightning news?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, then let's talk about what's making us happy. All right. Jack, what's making you happy this week?
Pickles. Loving my pickles. They're not doing so hot this season, but the games are hilarious. We went to cat night, which is kind of funny because I'm deathly allergic to cats, and they had a cat parade, which I thought was kind of fun.
A cat parade?
Fight. Yeah. Like, so they.
How do you keep the cats? Is there like a
on
funnel?
leashes?
Yeah.
And there was There were no cats on leashes at all. Every cat was like draped over the shoulder or in a backpack or in a
Okay. Yeah.
baby carriage kind of thing. Although my
Mm.
wife said that she did was at one point she was walking around because our seats that we pay for, like the season pass seats are way less comfortable than the usual bleacher seats, which are already pretty uncomfortable. So anyway, she had to walk around, and she said she saw a cat on a leash. So there were some leashed cats out there. Actually, my next door neighbor leashes and walks his cat. I don't know, it's kind of a thing. But yeah, no. So that was fun and great Dizzy Bat last night. Every person who's playing Dizzy Bat just crashed into each other, and so it's just fun. Even if they're not winning, it's still a great time at the ballpark. So it's just good to have these summer nights where you can just kind of forget everything that's going on and just enjoy the game.
Tell us about the cat fight. Was that planned as well?
Oh yeah, that was planned. I think it was like after the second inning or something like that. So everybody has to volunteer for this. It was two best friends, and they basically put on wigs, and the fight was to get the wig off of the other person. And so they had like round one, it finished almost immediately, and it was a tie. So then, of course, everybody in this league, go do it again. And then they had like a full on like kind of running around trying to cat and mouse sort of thing. And it was just hilarious. I've never seen that particular game, and yeah, it was fun.
I'll say, like, my local baseball leagues have the best gimmicks of anything, and I think the Savannah Banana is kind of where the ultimate perfection of that and some of the things they do. But just your local minor league baseball team probably has a pretty entertaining thing lined up if you've never went before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, TJ, what's your pick for this week?
Claude Cowork is making me quite happy. I've been using it extensively this week, and I just wanted to share some of the tips and tricks of things that I've gotten it to do. So the one thing is I've been using it for PowerPoint more, and I don't know how much of our audience does slides. I don't do a lot of it, but when I do, the one thing that I've always been horrible at is slide design. And I know there's things like in PowerPoint, there's things in others that try to help you with that sort of thing, and they're all not good. They're really not all that great. Yeah. And what I can do with Claude Cowork, especially since it can just work async, essentially, is that I'll just make my slides. I'll get sort of the information architecture I want and whatnot, and then I'll go into Claude Cowork and just say, make this look nicer. Or I'll give it a little bit more instruction than that, the sort of thing I'm going for in a slide. And man, it's done some really cool designs. Like I had a slide that I'm giving a talk coming up on AI because of course I am. And I wanted to have some slides to make it very obvious that a robot was saying it. And of course, when I try to do that, I'd put in like a little robot emoji and then just some quotes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when I had Claude go through, it came up with this whole motif. It had a speech, a big robot, a speech bubble. It changed the look of the text to be more robotic. And, it took me, 15 seconds to write up the paragraph, and then Cowork worked on it for a few minutes. And it's just, I am continuously amazed by the things you can do with that. And so if you haven't tried Cowork for that sort of thing before, because when I first tried it, it was kind of meh. And it's just crazy to me that now coming back months later, that it's already improved so much is wild.
Yeah. Oh, I've been even lazier than you in terms of creating slide decks with Cowork. I won't even try and do a PowerPoint. I'll just tell Claude exactly what I want the gist of this presentation to be about, and it will generate the whole thing for me just from my text descriptions of like, these are the points that are important. This is the audience that I'm talking to. This is how long I want this presentation to be. And then, we'll refine it 3 or 4 or 5 times from there. But yeah, I had it do this for 2 presentations last month that I was giving to my company when we all got together and were like sharing things that we were learning about how to use AI effectively, actually. So I had it generate one for how I use Cowork on a regular basis, the cron jobs and everything, and also how I use Claude Code in my engineering day-to-day. And yeah, Cowork just killed it. Both slides both slide decks looked so good. I would have never gotten even close to what these things looked like. They were so good.
All
It's
right, I gotta
wild.
try this out because I mean, I gotta say, like, there's something about building slide decks where I just can't. It's like
Yeah.
I'll be like, halfway through the day, and it's like the next thing along the line is work on the slide decks, and it's like if I've got 5 days until the presentation or whatever, I could be like, oh, you
It's
want to do a
such
root
a
canal
chore.
or do this, and it's like I'll take the root canal. Like it's so
Yeah.
bad. So I really I don't know what it is. And I've talked with a whole bunch of other presenters, and it is like just weirdly the hardest thing
Torturous.
to do. Torturous.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sure
Yeah.
that there are MBAs out there who are like, oh my gosh, that's my whole job is making these PowerPoint decks. It's like, yeah, well, yeah.
See, I'm the weird person. I like making slide decks. I am the
Oh, no.
person.
Okay.
So for me, that's why I kind of like the control of making the deck itself. My problem is that my decks always just look like garbage. They just look like they were designed by a high schooler because I have no concept of how to make them look visually appealing. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've worked at companies that had teams, that marketing people, that their job was just to make slide decks look good, because some of these presentations are quite important. You're giving an investment pitch. You're
Pitching
you're
new
giving
business.
you're giving a keynote at an event where you're reaching a lot of people. Having those things look really good is very, very important. And yeah, I guess we're just turning that over to Claude now too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another extension of Claude design. It's the same kind of idea of make it look good. You have way more design experience and knowledge than I will, so.
This, though, to tie this back to our last point, Jack, when you were saying the normies aren't using Cursor, this is the sort of stuff that the normies are totally going to use for their day-to-day jobs, though. Like your PMs, like those sort of people. They're gonna give Anthropic even more money because these tools have gotten really, really good. Yeah,
our PMs and our salespeople and all the people on the front lines are using Claude Cowork, and then the designers and the PMs are going to use Claude Design. I mean, Anthropic has really figured out how to just corner the entire white collar business industry as a whole.
Yeah, certainly around software. Yeah. And I gotta say, I did get the prompt of Claude Desktop. Hey, do you want to try Claude Design? And I thought it was kind of funny that, like, so being me, I hit yes. Sure, I want to see, right? What is this like? And it goes to the design panel, and okay, do you want to create a new document? I'm like, I ain't got time for that. I just want to see what's going on. And I couldn't find the way to back out. Like there was no button. And I got so frustrated, I finally just quit the app. And then when I restarted, like my regular chat window came back with a little Claude Design thing at the bottom. And this time when I clicked on Claude Design, I could see that there was a button that wasn't there before that said like return to chat. And it's like, oh, wow, software quality's gotten so ridiculously bad that nobody checks this stuff anymore.
I bet Claude wrote it, checked it, pushed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The UX in the Claude desktop app is awful. It is very bad.
They
have this thing up in the top corner
of crap.
Yeah, you switch between chat and Cowork and code, and then there's weird things like in Cowork you can do scheduled tasks, but then in code you can have also scheduled tasks, but they're called routines there, and then they work slightly differently. It's a complete mess. But the thing is, they can get away with it because their tools are so good. So
they have no designers on staff, but they don't care.
Yeah.
And there's no interoperability between any of these things. Like Claude Chat it knows that there is Claude code around, but it has no idea how to can't actually
what
connect
it's doing,
with it, can't do anything with it. But Claude Chat can actually build its own. So Claude Chat can be Claude code too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
okay, it's whatever. Claude Code Lite for PMs who don't want to do terminal stuff.
Right. No,
it's all crazy.
I mean, this is like Claude code inside of the desktop app is also like there's that too, and it's like
that exists.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I've been using the desktop app more though, even through code, because I got my buddy. My buddy only works through that, and buddy doesn't work through Claude Code. So my buddy's up to level 4. So
congratulations.
It would be be higher if I connected it more often. But it levels. You just feed it. You use 50,000 tokens. That's how it levels up. So
Seriously?
Oh,
That is
I see. Okay.
that is seriously how you level it up. And I'm sure I've used way more tokens than that, but I don't always remember. I don't always use the desktop app, and I don't always remember to connect it. But
Oh,
I
that's
do
a
have
shame
fun
it
when I
can't
do.
connect to Claude Code, because you would level up so fast
Oh,
if
yeah,
it was
yeah,
doing
yeah.
it with
That's-
that.
Oh my God, 50,000 tokens in Claude Code is like is
Oh,
change,
Gone.
yeah. It's,
change a piece of
you
text.
blink it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I'm looking at the output of like these tests that I'm doing with GLM, and it's like, 4.5 million tokens. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
So is GLM noticeably faster than Claude Code? Because I'm using Opus 4.8 now, pretty much exclusively for harder tasks. And it has to think about everything, even when it's a very simple request that I've asked of it.
I would say for the longer tasks, it's appreciably slower, actually. And I think that's probably because the hosting, at least the Olama hosting that I'm using. So probably really depends on your hosting provider and your plan and all of that. I didn't take that into account in my analysis because, it just, sometimes you just want to let stuff cook and it's fine. If you just want to let it cook, it's fine. But I have noticed just for the kind of basic, like change this piece of text or whatever, it's fast, very fast for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm just impatient and I am used to it being faster, but it does feel considerably slower, but also its output is better. So I guess I shouldn't complain.
I think the expectations are getting raised and our impatience is getting raised. And it's kind of like, we, you stand back and you look at it and you're like, make me this app that does da 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 da. And it's like, it spends 20 minutes doing it. And you're like, 20 minutes?
God, why is this
God,
not
that's so
faster?
Like,
It reminds me.
dude,
there's
are
a
you kidding me?
change
This
50
is like 3
files.
days if you didn't have
Right.
this thing. What are you talking
It'll
about?
take you a
man?
week. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a very famous Louis C.K. comedy skit where he talks about how he got on a plane the first time that airplane Wi-Fi was available, and then he says how they announced that it broke down, and that the person next to him on the plane was pissed that it broke down, and he's like, man, how quickly do we get upset? Like the latest greatest, the fact that you can talk to the internet on a flying metal tube while participating in the miracle of flight. And then it breaks down for a second. It's easily complain. That's like what it is with AI. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Massive first world problems.
Oh my God.
It's great.
It's so ridiculous.
So what is making me happy for this week is the newest season of Clarkson's Farm is out. And if you've listened to this podcast for a while, it's been, I think, pretty entertaining for the last 4 seasons that it's existed. It's on Amazon Prime. It stars Jeremy Clarkson of Top Gear, formerly of Top Gear. And yeah, he's become a gentleman farmer who has no clue what he's doing. And chaos ensues on his giant farm in England. And this season, the chaos continues to ensue. So it's still really fun to watch. This season, although, is like the technology season. So he's buying autonomous tractors. He's
Lord.
buying,
Oh, no.
he's doing all sorts of like ground studies to figure out where his fields are especially fertile or where they need more fertilizer, and then buying machines that can manage the amount based on the mapping that they've done. I mean, it's really like, wow, farming technology is insane at this point. It is so cool to see these gigantic machines that have their own GPS that are driving themselves, that you control the joystick, and yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, back in the day when .com, like maybe 10 years ago, there'd be all these .com millionaire, billionaire folks that would go out and like they get their own farms, and the next thing you know, they'd be like at work and be like, "Oh, aren't you a farmer?" And they're like, "Yeah, man. Like, here's my iPad showing like, all the metrics of my farm. It's just off there doing stuff like Farmville, but in reality, an actual farm."
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I guess.
Yeah, and using drones for crop dusting, and I mean, yeah, it's wild. And the other
Incredible.
thing that's making me happy, because I'm going to pick two, is seeing World Cup international fans and their reactions to America, like online.
Yes.
It is so fun to see how much like the Tartan Army is beloved in Boston now. All the Scottish fans who are in Boston drinking out all of their beer, bagpipes in the mornings, like just swarming over everything and having a great time. And it's so fun to see these people's reactions to America.
Yeah, my wife was talking about this last night. She was saying that there's some German guy who's like, he's all about Walmart now. He went into a Walmart and he's like, oh my God, Walmart.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay.
Japanese fans got free salsa and chips at some Mexican restaurant, and they were astounded at that. They ate 3
like,
baskets
we don't deserve
because
this.
they were free.
Yeah. I huge props though to the Japanese fans who cleaned up in the stands. Like, yes, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, love you guys. Thank you. Teach us Americans something, please.
Right.
It's funny that the things that we see as routine as Americans that you don't even realize that viewed through another lens are insane. Mm-hmm. I've seen videos of Europeans just going into Costco, and when you see it, it makes total sense. It's like we make fun of how ludicrous some of the things you can buy at Costco are, but to see someone who just has not grown up with it and has not seen it in the wild before it really just hits home how silly all of it is. So, I've been entertained by that too. Yeah.
Ranch dressing is blowing foreigners' minds. Apparently, they do not have it in Europe, in England, anywhere besides America.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, it's good.
But I think
like the big Texas thing to ranch dressing and fries, I think. Maybe it's blue cheese and fries. Yeah.
Ooh. Ranch and fries, I know, but blue cheese, that's a lot.
I will say the one, yes.
I haven't done blue cheese in so long, man. Like, it's just, yeah.
The one cool thing about the World Cup is that if a lot of the previous World Cups, there was drama about the construction of all these stadiums. So that was a thing in Brazil, that was a thing in Qatar. And the one thing about America is we were ready from an infrastructure, from a stadium perspective, that the fact that we just have all these mega venues just sitting around, like, which ones do you want to use? We got a ton of them available is kind of cool. And I think I've seen Europeans amazed at just some of the technology we have in ours, some of the enormous screens that we have hooked up in some of these football venues. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of crazy. And
I think it's really good for America's like perception from the worldview, though, because I think before a lot of these fans came, based on the media coverage, America just looks like you're going to get mugged at every turn, and it's a land full of idiots. And so they're actually seeing it firsthand and realizing that the rest of us who are not getting media coverage or influencers on TikTok are just normal people like them trying to have a good time and get on with our days.
Yeah, there are good things about America. There are bad things about America. But your average person you meet on the streets is, genuinely speaking, people are pretty good overall.
Yeah, pretty good. They're very, they can be a little bit rough on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, we're very, very friendly. It's a joke.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Oh, no, well, okay, so there's a joke about how a person gets a flat, on the side of the road. And on the East Coast, the guy comes up and is like, yeah, you idiot, let me just get you back on the road here because you don't know how to fix your tire, all that kind of stuff, and get you back on the road. And then in California, so they're friendly, but they're unfriendly but helpful. And then on the West Coast, you'll get the person who stops and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry you got a flat. Good luck with that. So they're like friendly but not helpful.
But not helpful.
Yeah.
And then there's the Midwest, which is friendly and helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with that.
It's true. It's just true. Well, I think that is going to wrap up episode 150. So thank you to everybody who's been listening.
Amazing.
We really appreciate it. If you want to hang out with us, we are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. No, we're not on Facebook. If you want to hang out with us, we are on X. We are on Discord. And our Discord is really the place. It's within the Blue Collar Coder Discord.
It's fun.
We have our channel. We talk about stuff. It's a good time. So
Exactly.
thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
See you, everybody.